What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Let's Rock Podcast. I am your host, Philosophical.
And I'm your host, Jay Echo. What's good?
What's going on? What's going on, y'all? As you guys can see, we got an illustrious guest with us again, Mr. Shon Hyman. Man, I met this gentleman. I came across his Instagram page. Very interested, man, on the topic we're definitely speaking today. He is a pre-engagement coach, a divorce coach, and also his website is Scarrytoremarry.com. Hey, welcome, Sean. Welcome, Sean, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Appreciate you
how
taking
y'all?
the time coming out.
Hey, how y'all doing, man? I'm excited. Thanks again for us to be able to get this done, man. It's been a long time coming,
Yeah, it's
but we're
been a
here
long
now.
time. I know we've had a couple reschedules, life
Sure.
hits, and different things like that. So we're gonna get right into it, man. So tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are, and kind of what you represent out of all this.
Yeah, introduce
Yeah,
yourself to the people.
Yeah.
yes, as you said, Shon Hyman, pre-engagement coach. I came up with the term pre-engagement because 15 to 20% of couples who get engaged, they are the only ones who call it off. 15 to 20%.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, I think that number should be higher. So that's one of the reasons for doing pre-engagement and just wanting to walk you through life
Okay.
and this process of thinking I want to get married. Sometimes I like to talk people out of it.
Okay.
You know, marriage not for everybody.
And we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a second. So you said, just to kind of repeat what you said. You said 15 to 20% of couples call off the engagement. Is that what you said?
yes.
Okay. So we'll get into some of those reasons in a second, and some of the your opinion on why that happens, right? But continue. Go ahead.
Yes. Of course, I'm remarried. I was
Okay.
married for 15 years. Went through a divorce. I tell people all the time I never really talk bad about my ex-wife because I married her.
Okay.
So I never talk bad about the ex-wife, just to put that out there. Happily married, remarried. Met my wife on Instagram. We remarried 6 months, and we dated long distance. And I relocated to Texas, and we have 4 kids all together. And I'm all about just helping couples walk through this process of, after divorce, if they want to remarry again, let's consider some things this time around. It's kind of interesting, real quick. I hate to be a statistic guy off the top of my head.
No. This is something a lot of our men probably need to hear and learn from. But go ahead.
Yes, 67% of second marriages fail.
Wow.
And then the numbers are even higher the third time around.
Wow, really?
Yes.
So the first time is still hovering around 50%, right?
Yeah, 50%. Yeah.
Okay, 50%. Second time is, you're saying it just keeps going up. So what is the third time?
The third, I think it's almost like 79 to 80%, something like that.
Wow.
So it just gets worse, but we can talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second also. But yeah, continue. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'm all about just helping people, especially for those who've been divorced, if they want to remarry. I just want to help walk you through this process of, if you really want to do this again, have you really recovered from the last marriage? And what does your new self look like coming out of this marriage?
Okay.
Right? Or coming out of this divorce? Who are you now?
Okay.
So we could talk about that later as well.
Okay, well let's that goes right into our first question. Let's get right into it. And this is coming from I guess from men who are in a relationship and kind of contemplating or having engagement as on their mind, right? So what are some questions you think couples aren't having that would help indicate their potential success or even current failure?
You said what conversations they are not having?
Correct. Yeah. Well, not having and maybe should be having.
That will let them know that, like, hey, this probably, like you said, we should probably call this off, or like, nah, we're good to go. Let's keep moving forward.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, a good question I like to ask a lot is what is your favorite childhood memory? That's one of them. I like to ask, what's your favorite childhood memory? Because if someone can't tell you that they remember them, that's an indicator that maybe I alone might not be enough for you. There might be some holes in there that need to be filled.
Okay.
That's going to help you, because a lot of times if we don't address those issues or whatever, if we can't remember not famous, but good childhood memories,
Okay.
it probably was a dark one. And of course, we know we chase our childhood a lot of times when we go unhealed. So that's one of them. I have so many great questions that.
Oh well, hey,
Yo,
let
just
it
run through 'em.
let it all out. Let
Yeah.
them all out, and let's kind of discuss. If you want to name 3 to 5, that's fine too. But let's kind of discuss and see. Let's dissect each one of these things, because I have some questions, especially about that first one. But go ahead.
Yes. Who was a safe place for you to express your feelings while growing up?
Okay.
That's another one.
Okay.
Another one is simple but profound. Why do you want to get married? I think a lot of people can't even answer that. That's something that you really have to think about, and we can talk about the answers as well.
Okay.
How did you cope with hurt and disappointment while growing up?
Okay.
Those are some good ones. And also, how do you feel about the opposite sex?
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's kind of let's start with that. Let's start with that first question, right? Remembering childhood memories. So I guess we can kind of say that's part of your environment you grew up on. We can kind of, I guess, correlate that with trauma and grudges, and kind of really the way or the lack of communication you have with your family, friends, childhood could potentially be the way you're going to have with your partner. Is that kind of where this is going?
Yes, and it's also when they can tell you, if they can tell you their favorite childhood memory, that's going to tell you what they really enjoy.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Okay. And your second question was kind of, I'm sorry if I didn't get it all, but what was your second question?
Who was a safe place for you to go to express your feelings while growing up?
Okay. So a safe place that you're, I guess we can correlate that to a safe place if there are disagreements happening within your partner, to say, hey, this is how you react to that. This is your safe space. This is your safe zone. Is that kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, but who was that person as a child? Who did you go to express your feelings? Could you express your feelings?
And do you have somebody like that in your life now? Right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Third point was,
why do you want to get married?
Why do you want to get
married? Let's start there. I think this is big, because there are many different reasons why people want to get married. I did a Freedom Friday the other day, speaking on, I don't know if you had a chance to catch that, but speaking on, do women love you, or they just in love with the title? And I see your reaction to that.
Yeah.
So are men in love with the woman, or are they just in love with the title, and vice versa? Let's kind of dive deep into that. How do you dissect something like that?
Were you about to say something, Jay?
Go ahead, Jay.
I think what I was about to say was, like, I think it's a catch-22, right? Because we hear all the time, like we've even heard on our show that, like, oh, marriage is a positive for, well, it's a net positive, not all the time, but generally speaking, it can be a positive for, mental health, for emotional well-being. When it's a healthy marriage, it can be all those things. But then at the same time, like you said, are people jumping in because they believe they are going to receive that and also provide that for somebody else? Or are they doing it just because it's like, you date for a while and then you get married? That's what the TV says, or whatever the case may be.
But I think also, and that's a good point, but I feel like people are in unhealthy relationships thinking that they're going to get married and become a healthy marriage. And I think,
that you're correct, but I think I think all of us here would agree that that is a mistake.
Yeah,
Like the health of your relationship doesn't magically shift just because you add some paperwork. Like it's just a relationship with some paperwork. Like that's all that is.
Yeah, and for me, my personal story, and Jay has known that I was engaged twice, right? Not saying that I didn't play a part into it, but I think we as men, we kind of look at failed relationships and failed engagements as it was the other person's fault. And I'm learning each day that, those are choices that I made. And when I was younger, I didn't really dive deep into, okay, how did I play a part in that? I made the choices. I decided to um, ignore the things that weren't right for me. So how can I learn from that, right? And being married now has taught me a lot from those failed relationships and failed engagements that made me kind of reevaluate who am I, where do I want to go, what's my personality, what do I need, what do I want. So I guess my question is for you, Sean or Jay, is that speak on that for a little bit. Let's speak on that for a lot of men who are maybe on the brink of a failed relationship or in a relationship thinking that if I don't get married to this person, or if I do decide to get married to this person, can this or will this relationship get better?
It can.
Okay.
It can. I think anything is possible.
Okay.
But I think you gotta have two willing parties. That's the thing about marriage, right? The thing about marriage is it takes two.
Yeah.
So if one person is only fighting, it's gonna fail. That's the power in marriage, that it literally takes two people. And I always tell people too that marriage is not for everyone. That it's okay if you need to break off the engagement, break it off. I rather you break it off than get married and then have kids and build this family, and then because the thing about divorce is like it's collateral damage. Like there's more people that get hurt than just you two.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You got kids, and uh, even just in society, like the breakdown of a marriage, it has more of an effect than we think. Because I believe that marriage is the backbone to society.
That too. When you're married, I think it does open doors society wise that it wouldn't open that when you were single. And sometimes divorce, sometimes not saying it's a bad thing, but it can harm your reputation. To people often look at you judgmental to say they automatically blame the man and say, hey, lack of commitment. He wasn't committed. He gave up. He quit. But some people just don't understand what goes on in someone's household. But go ahead, Jay.
I agree with Sean in that like marriage is not for everybody, but I also think that this is going to sound. I'm not sure how to word this, so pardon me while I work my way through it.
Okay.
But I think the idea that marriage is the backbone comes from the fact that you're merging households, right? You're merging, like you're stronger as a unit. So your resources, your whatever else, you're pulling all of that together so you can build more, whatever that is, whether it's community, whether it's safety, whether it's all of those things. You're pooling your resources for those things.
You're basically building with each other.
Exactly. The idea is to build with one another.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there are those people where it's like, you know what, maybe I do just need to build by myself. Maybe I do need to. And this isn't me saying that like, well, one, like Sean said, some people shouldn't be getting married, whether it's because they're not healthy or whatever the case may be. But also, from a just a personality standpoint, some people don't like that thing, whatever it is about being in partnership with somebody, just isn't for them. And I think that's okay. I think we have to acknowledge that, but also still do the work to get to like, how are we building healthy relationships?
So I have two questions here. I want to get to the examples on the next question, but you guys both kind of hinted at marriage is not for everybody, right? I tend to kind of disagree because I feel like marriage is for everybody, but the mindset and personality of a person is very important. I feel marriage today, like you said, Jay, people bringing households together, people are becoming a little bit more selfish to the point where they don't want to let someone in their space. And I completely understand. I completely can say, okay, then they don't have the right concept of what a relationship and marriage can be as far as bringing households together. The problem is that there's going to come a time when you kind of get to a point where you have all these things in your house, you built something by yourself. Who are you going to share it with?
But so that's where I say, and I've been saying it more and more recently.
Okay.
That's where I say the community and the village comes in, right?
But sometimes people don't understand that. I think some people don't understand that
Yes.
community and village.
So
Yeah.
that's where, and Sean, I'd like to hear your opinion on this as well. But that's where my idea of like, if we get back to that mindset, and to explain it to you, Sean, because you haven't really been part of these conversations. The whole idea is that like back in the day, like whether it was raising children, whether it was, like protecting yourselves or whatever the case may be, it literally took a village. Like the whole village came together to build this thing. And we've gotten so far, at least in the West, we've gotten so far away from that. So now it's like, oh, it's all about me. It's all about my individual thing. It's all about, this is mine. Versus, it's like, yes, this person is an elder in the village, but they live alone. And so like, oh yeah, they're an elder in the village and they're living alone, but all of the children still go to the elder's house to, for whatever reason. If somebody needs something or needs advice, that elder is still a part of the community and they can still be brought in for decision making and other things like that, as opposed to the idea that, oh, after you hit your 60s, we're good with you, catch you on the flip, that type of thing.
Love to hear your opinion on this, Sean.
Yeah. I guess, are we framing the question more of, does it take a village, or is it, should everyone get married?
Do you agree that marriage isn't for everybody?
Yeah, I agree. Marriage isn't for everybody. Because for me, this is just, and even just talking with couples and people that I've coached, when people say, I will say, why you want to get married, they'll be like, I want this, I want that. I want to be loved. I don't want to be alone, or I want.
Yep.
Because again, marriage takes two.
Yeah.
Now, if you come into the marriage like, I came to serve, you know what I'm saying? Like you were doing more of giving opposed to receiving.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a recipe for a great marriage. I always joke around and tell people, my wife and I, man, we try to outserve each other. Because as long as you keep that reciprocity going, you're on the road to a healthy longevity type marriage.
So let's speak about some of those examples, right? Let's speak to our men here for a second. Men that are in a relationship and kind of contemplating, thinking about getting engaged to their partner, right? Give some examples of how men can get over that failure, that fearful, that afraid, like struggling with cold feet on potentially marrying their partner. Kind of speak on that for a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think you have to give people a clean slate. I think you have to be mentally strong enough to know that this person is not my ex.
Okay.
Because it's almost like having this glass mirror, right?
Okay.
And after every hurt, failed relationship, you throw paint on that mirror. First, you had a clear vision of what you thought a woman should be. But after every heartbreak, there's more paint that just goes on the glass. And all of a sudden, it blurs your vision. You really can't see what's on the other side. So a lot of times, we just taking hurt with us into new relationships.
Okay.
And we're not even giving that person a fair chance. You know, so I think a lot of us really don't take the time to say that I need to be more graceful.
Okay.
Because that's another thing too. And I think you can't have a healthy marriage without grace.
And some patience too.
And patience, right?
Yeah.
Gotta have the grace and patience. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that's in relationships that they would tell you this is probably the healthiest relationship that I've been in, or things of that nature. So it's just, you really have to allow that person to be who they are. Like, can you love them if they never change?
Are we speaking on the men's side, or are we speaking on both sides here?
I think that's everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's an exclusively man or woman thing. I think that's a people thing.
So when you say, so men that are struggling to potentially propose to their lady, you feel like the struggle is the fact that their partner isn't who they possibly dated before. Maybe there's some struggle in themselves, lack of patience, lack of grace. So do you tell those men, hey, take a chance, take a risk? Do you tell those men, hey, you're not ready, maybe stop wasting time? Do you tell those men, hey, you need to surround yourself with some men that are married or in the engagement process? What do you tell those men?
Well, one size doesn't fit all, right? I think everybody's situation is different. I think it just depends on the situation. I think mentorship is very important. I think that's something that a lot of men lack, because men, we like cornerbacks in the NFL. We're on the island by ourselves, right? We don't associate with anybody, let alone our own struggles. Like, we like to boost our ego and let everybody think we have it all together. So when you run into issues with your woman, she got her girlfriends, like we talked about community. She have them. But as men, we don't have
that safe space.
One trusted man. We just end up repeating self-destructive behaviors and patterns that we just take into the marriage with us.
So you would kind of tell men who are contemplating engagement to kind of seek some mentorship.
Yes.
Seek some therapy. Maybe both of them go to therapy. So what do you say to men, right? And I feel like this is something that we all kind of go through, we as men. What do you say to men that are kind of leading the relationship with their money, that are kind of leading the relationship within their ego? They're not really able to be themselves. They're not able to kind of figure out or see the signs potentially of maybe the person they're with isn't the right person, but they're continually trying to impress them with, let me continue the leading with the finances, and she'll see my value, or even vice versa with the woman. She's not able to be herself. She's got to constantly lead and subservient to him. So what do you say to those type of couples who are struggling with that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, you can't lead with your money, because if you lead in with your money, that's how you're gonna have to maintain a relationship.
Exactly, and that's failure. You can't lead forever with that.
Right. So a lot of times, even I tell guys, if you take a woman on a date, it's okay to take her to Starbucks. You ain't gotta take her to a 5-star dinner the first time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because dating can be expensive.
It can be expensive, and if that's the expectation, the 5-star restaurant all the time, right? You should really, really evaluate, the person that you're sitting next to, right?
Right.
But go ahead, Jay.
I mean, for just going based off of personal experience, like I got real comfortable just finding not, I won't say inexpensive because they did cost money, but like
Okay.
it didn't have to be 5-star. It was like, and
Three and a
also
half.
it 3.5, maybe
Three and a
2,
half.
but it was also just doing stuff that I would want to do on my own anyway.
Okay.
Because at that point, it's like, not only are we spending time together, but you are also getting an idea of who I am regardless.
Yep.
Right? Like
Yep.
the I'm being me, but we're also enjoying an activity together. So like so Phil, you know this, like I enjoy like finding speakeasies around the city.
Yep. Yep.
And that was one of the first things that me and my lady did. And
Yeah.
it's like, all right, cool. You know that this is something I enjoy. You know
Yeah.
that this is something that I would like to continue doing.
Yeah.
And based on what I'm catching, the vibe I'm catching off of you, you are enjoying this as well. So this is now an activity that we can do together.
Oh,
And as long as you have something like that
not
too.
only just enjoying it, but she's with you in that enjoyment, right?
Exactly.
She may not like, I don't understand why we're here or what we're doing, but she trusts you in the fact that um, you're going to keep her safe, and this is a place that you enjoy doing, so she can learn to enjoy it somehow in her own um, ambiance.
Yeah, I mean, and then, but the other side of that is like, if she doesn't enjoy it, then it's like, all right, cool. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you, it doesn't, it's no skin off my back as long as the understanding is like, all right, I respect the fact that you don't enjoy this. As
mm,
long as you respect the fact that I do enjoy this and I will continue doing this, to a reasonable extent, right?
yeah. So one of my main questions, Sean and Jay, you can kind of interject with this is, and I know this is probably a question that a lot of our men are probably wondering. What do you say to men who are in relationships that are still trying to find themselves in relationships, find their identity, i.e., they're trying to make certain decisions, they're trying to live up to, financial wise, career wise, they're really trying to feel like step it up on a personal level to feel valued within a relationship and potential marriage. So what do you say to men that want to kind of accelerate their life based off of their partner they're with?
I, I, I got this revelation the other day.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this.
Brand new. Okay.
Yeah, this is whole total mind shift set.
Okay.
I wish looking back now, I would have chased my purpose before chasing women.
Wow. Okay.
Now, and by doing so, I could set up my financial future, chasing my purpose,
Okay.
and then being able to, when I marry, giving my wife the decision or the option of either you can stay at home or you can work.
Mm.
Like coming to the table, and I hate the whole table thing, but just giving that option, like if we get married, I would prefer for you to stay at home, but if you want to be a career woman, but you have the option of taking either or.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm secure enough financially. I've lived enough life where I know this is where I rock. This is where I'm good at.
Yep.
And then get married.
Okay.
I think sometimes it's hard to try to chase your purpose and being married at the same time. Now it can happen.
So what do you say to those men who are going through it right now? What advice would you give them?
Are you saying like these guys are already in relationships?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you have a woman that's down with you, continue to pursue it. But
Okay.
realize too that She has needs. She has requirements. Take care of home first. It's like now, perfect example. Here we are on this call. My wife and I went over the logistics this morning. I'm like, hey, I got a call this evening. You know what I'm saying? She's like, all right, I'm gonna watch the boys because we got 3 of our kids here. She's like, I'm gonna, get them baths. I'm gonna feed them. You can go ahead, jump on your call. Boom. It takes teamwork.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think if you got a woman that's gonna support you, continue to do that, but also you got to give her the things that she needs in return too.
So do you feel like on both sides, men and women, were giving too much power to each other, men and women, that are not basically willing to have that teamwork approach, not support? You pretty much have to fall in line with what the other person's expectations are. You have to pretty much, it's a little bit of selfishness there. So, what kind of advice do you give to those men and women who are kind of dealing with that?
You gotta have a conversation, man.
Yeah,
you gotta have it because, and I posted this on Twitter the other day.
Okay,
you can't hold someone accountable for a conversation you didn't have. Right? So you can't be mad at her. And a lot of relationships are failing because of these unspoken expectations. We got all these things in our head of what we expect them to do. Like they just supposed to figure out what's going on in our head. So you got to have the conversation. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be ugly, but it's worth it. And if you prefer to chase your purpose over the relationship, it's okay to exit stage left. I mean, you don't want to carry somebody down the road. That's something that might not even materialize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very, very good point. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned accountability a little bit just now, and I wanna back up a little bit, just a slight bit to you also mentioned mentorship. Why do you think accountability is such an issue in dating these days? I mean, do you think the issue is the lack of mentorship, or do you think there's something else that's making that so prominent?
It's just like accountability is needed. My old pastor, man, he used to always tell me, don't tell me who you over until you tell me who you under. So it's like not having to me, I couldn't marry somebody who wasn't accountable to a higher power, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm left to my own vices and to do what I want to do, so people always talk about but they say, I'm gonna do me. I'm like, those dangerous people. Because if you're gonna do you wouldn't hurt anybody to do what, whatever is gonna please you. So I think accountability is important because we need somebody to help keep us on the path or the road or the straight and narrow. I always tell people, marry someone who can see your blind spots because they can help you see stuff that you can and be like, oh, okay. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
We've said that a lot on this show. Marry someone that can put in the details, can sew that for you. And that brings me to a good question that made me think of it right now. What do you say to, or how would you handle, we have this this red pill, blue pill, this masculinity, this,
foolishness. Let's just call it what it is.
Well, not only that, I won't call it foolishness because
I would.
Okay. Because I think I was going to say there's such a reverse of roles in relationships. So what do you say to men or even a woman? And I'll do this in a two-parter. Men that are dating women who are masculine, men that are dating women who feel like they want to be that leadership role, and then on the other side you have women who don't really trust a man's leadership, and just maybe that can come from past relationships, that can come from the way they grew up. So kind of speak on that, this reverse of roles a little bit. Is that okay to you? Is that do you feel like men should be a certain way and women should a good woman or a woman should be leading? I mean, should be like detail oriented. Kind of explain that for our men out there.
Yeah, it depends on a couple, man. But I will
Okay.
say I do believe that men should lead.
Okay.
But with that being said, you got to be willing to take those L's too, because
Okay.
you got a lot of men, they want to be Black Panther, but they don't want to do what's best for Wakanda. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So,
And sometimes that's a woman's job.
yeah, but at the same time, even as a man though, because the reason why a lot of women don't submit to their man is because he's only doing what's best for him. He's not.
Wow.
He's not looking out for what's best for the family. When you think when a woman makes a decision, she always make a decision based on everybody in the house. At least most women. Most women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some women out here, they but when you look at a lot of moms and stuff like that, she always think about this, Phil. Your wife, she don't do stuff just for her.
Yeah.
That
would push me away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that would push me away. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and you too, Jay. You said something about your lady. I'm pretty sure that when she go to the grocery store, she don't go to the grocery store for herself.
Yeah. Because those decisions affect me too. They affect Jay. They affect you. And when you start to make blind decisions for yourself, that can cause problems.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of women don't trust men. He be like, "Oh, you ain't gonna let me lead." It's not about she ain't gonna let you lead. It's just that all your decisions are selfish.
So do you feel like men should lead by example? And if women don't submit to that, do you tell men to kind of have that conversation, or this is not the right person for you? What do you tell those men?
It can be a mixture. I'm glad you said that. It can be a mixture because sometimes you got women, man, they so hard that no matter what you do, it's just never gonna be enough.
Okay.
But at the same time, there are some men who never worked in leadership positions, so they don't know how to lead. So they end up getting in relationships with women who already exemplify leadership skills. And because maybe she's been a single mom already, maybe she's the boss at her job. But there's a lot of men who never was a Boy Scout or never was a supervisor at a job, or you know what I'm saying. So they don't understand leadership.
So what do you say to those men who have, let's say, for example, failed at businesses, failed at careers, failed at decisions in the house, and the woman is starting to lose a little bit of trust, right? What do you say to those men that are kind of dealing with that?
You gotta start small, man. You gotta start with the small victories. You gotta be able to use like small things that you know you can get accomplished, right? Instead of trying to be on this grand scale, I'm gonna be the next whoever. You know what I'm saying? No, do something small. Hey babe, I'm gonna wash the dishes this week. Dishes on me this week. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So what you do is if you're trying to get into that leadership position, you stick to that. You wash them dishes all week. Good at. Yep. Come hell or high water, wash those dishes. Hey babe, I'm gonna help you get with the homework this week. You know what I'm saying? It's the small things, man. So if you can start small and build up that trust, I believe she will be more relaxed, because a lot of times when women talk about safety, that's not only just like you gonna knock a brother out, but safe knowing that you're never gonna leave. Safe knowing that you're gonna be there for the kids. Safe knowing that you're gonna bring a check home. Not how much, but a check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm looking for
that. And kind of tug on that string a little bit. Safety, right? A woman feeling like she wants to be safe with a man. There are a lot of men out there who, like you said, cannot take care of themselves. They're struggling with bills. They're struggling at work. And these are the men that are in relationships that are haven't really taken care of themselves. Maybe still living with their parents, right? Haven't really found their purpose. So I hate to say that you shouldn't find your person, but I do think there's a little bit of a catch-22, because sometimes that person can really mold you and help you in certain situations. and you've got to really understand or really come to a decision. Like, is this type of person going to bruise your ego because you want to be stubborn and lead?
So
And yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I agree with you to a certain extent, right?
Okay.
Like, yes, finding your person can definitely mold you and help set your path, but I think there has to be a foundation there for them to mold, right? Like, um, I tried, and I seem to do it more often these days, but I'm not trying to do the back in my days situation. But
Okay.
like, in the one thing you can say about like the 50s, 60s, 70s is that like the understanding for most men was, okay, I'm going to have a job, I'm going to have a home or at least a residence of some kind, and I'm going to have a path forward before I settle down and get married, right? That was the idea.
Yeah.
These days, the idea is, oh, I'll just date a bunch and figure it out. And, eventually, once my career and stuff get right, once my finances get dude, I'll settle down and get married. And it's like we're hustling backwards almost, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like you were just saying, I mean, like both of you have said, the purpose was already set. Now it looked different for different people. It's like, okay, I need to have a career. All right, what career are you going to do? Are you going to do a trade? Are you going to start banking? Are you going to go into sales or whatever it was? It's like, all right, cool. I have this path. Now, oh, I met this nice lady down at the coffee shop. Let's start dating.
Yep.
And I was at the coffee shop because I was on break from my job and we sat down and talked, not just, oh, I was out with my boys one day, and, I don't really have any prospects, but, I'm just hanging out trying to figure it out. And, oh, she looked bad. What's good with you? It wasn't that. There was an order of operations.
So let's start there with our last question. That's a good point to bring up, Jay. The fear of starting over, right?
Mhm.
On for men and women, right? Whether that may be loneliness, whether that may be feeling like your next person is not the person you've accustomed or used to dealing with. So, kind of speak on that, Sean. What are your thoughts on men and women starting over on all ranges of age, 30, 40,
Yeah.
50? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. But can I rewind that back? Can we go back to the last question? Because I think there was a lot of stones unturned because you guys said great
Go
stuff.
ahead.
I kind of want to piggyback.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when we talk about finances, and Jay was talking about this as well, think about it. Statistically today, a lot of people can't live on their own.
Yep. Everything's going up.
There's a lot of people that cannot live on their own. And if they can, they're gonna be on a struggle bus, something serious. Like statistics show that more adults are going back home to live with their parents.
Yeah.
To save money, right?
Yeah. And check this out. They was maybe used to a certain lifestyle when they were in a relationship that they're living above their means. Because they know they got 2 checks coming in, but they living above their means. If you took that same person and lived on their own, and I'm talking because I know broke 6-figure income makers, right? They live paycheck to paycheck. Very few people live with budgets, and very few people live below their means. So you got a lot of people that's making 6 figures, but they're living above their means because their partner maybe makes 75 or 80,000 a year. But if you take them and put them by themselves, they couldn't survive off of 6 figures because they accustomed to living above their means.
So, okay, all right, that's a very good point. So, people, what do you say to those couples? Do you feel like that's why a lot of people stay with their partner? because they kind of need that person financially. But let's just call a spade a spade. If they were to make that same type of money in the high six, if they're going from making 75 to then into the six figures, where would their loyalty be? Right? Where would would they stay with that person? So what are your thoughts on that?
Money just shows people who you really are, right? People think money is like, if I just have more money. No, money's gonna show you who you really are. All money does is open doors that most poor people can't open. Right? So if you're making a certain amount of money, are you gonna start talking to different kind of women now because you're like we said, you're leading with your money now? Money just shows you who you really are. I think a lot of people don't realize what kind of trouble money. Biggie said, "More money, more problems." Right. Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't. They want money, but actually, that's maybe God is like, I don't want to. I don't want you to get in trouble, so I'm gonna keep you humble at this 65,000 because you got boundaries with 65,000. You get to 150,000, you're gonna lose your mind.
Yeah. And then you forgot how you got there. Yep. You forgot who you are, how you got there, and where you're from. Yep. So that's an excellent point.
Had that discipline. Yeah. Well, that's why I say that. Yeah.
And it's and I'm glad you said that. It's very important, finances within relationships and even marriage. So I guess we'll kind of go to our last, question. I'll kind of repeat it. What are your thoughts on the fear of men starting over?
That's the main reason why I call my business Scarrytoremarry, right? Because it's the fear of the unknown. But I think if you are confident, I think we date people according to our confidence level. So if you are confident, I believe that you can be okay with starting over. I think it's when you're lost, when you don't know who you are, that you
start to make wrong decisions. Okay.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Do people date based off of their confidence?
Yeah, I think people. One thing that I've noticed for myself, at least, I won't speak for anybody else, is that I allow people to treat me the way I feel like I deserve to be treated.
Yeah.
And typically speaking, when I am happy with myself, I accept a lot less BS because it's like, well, why am I'm good. I was doing I could do bad all by myself. Like, why am I putting up with this foolishness when I know I'm good over here? All right, cool, bet. I'm gonna catch it. Right? Like it's I think that's one of those discipline things. I think it's an accountability thing, and I think it's a self-esteem, the starting over. I think all of those things are wrapped up in it, because when you are okay with, we've had this conversation before, Phil, like when a man knows his purpose, he will run through walls, right? So if I have to start over, but I know what my purpose is, it's just like, okay, cool. I know I'm headed over there. I know the way I tried to get there before didn't work, so I'm gonna not do that, but I'm gonna still keep trying to get over there, as opposed to I have no idea where I'm going. And I've been at that spot where it's just like I have no idea.
And that's a good point, Jay. And when you know where you're going, you start to attract men and women who also can not only know where they're going, they also can help you get to where you're going. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean. What you say?
Oh, and I was gonna say the most secure person is the person who can enjoy their own company.
Oh yeah.
Right? And even when you look at kids, statistically, when you look at kids, when they know when they are a part of something bigger than themselves, or they know what they should be doing, those are the kids that's more likely to stay out of trouble.
Yep.
Because now they got that great equalizer. They thinking, should I run with my friend who can possibly get me in trouble, or am I willing to risk, not playing the piano because I love playing the piano and there's an event this weekend or something. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
even earliest childhood, they can make sound decisions based on them knowing what they should be doing or what they feel like what God has put in their heart.
So so kind of last question here. What do you tell people that are afraid to start over? What do you tell them and help them as far as, hey, this is what you should do, right? Focus on this, focus on that, do this. What advice do you give to people who are kind of having that trouble, kind of contemplating starting over? What's some of the tips would you give to them?
Yeah, like Jay said, do you know your purpose? I think that's something that's really good.
Okay.
And Jay said it perfectly. Like, you know where you want to go. You know what I'm saying? And because a lot of times when you don't know, you are afraid to leave somebody, or you're afraid to be on your own. And at the end of the day, you have to know too that, are you secure enough within yourself to know you're going to be good?
Yep. Yep.
I think a lot of times we give our power away to people too much. People.
Yeah.
I'm gonna treat you how you treat me. That whole thing. It's like you giving away your power, or I'm waiting for her to change, or I'm waiting for him to change. Like you're giving away your power.
You gotta wait a long time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're gonna wait a long time.
Yeah,
long time.
So you gotta know what your purpose is, and you gotta be secure enough to know that you could be okay regardless of those circumstances. You can look at something that might have happened to you 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it's like, oh, I'm still here.
Yeah. I'll also add to that, kind of a final point. You got to know your worth. You got to know, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're willing to deal with, who you're willing to deal with, and to say, hey, I've been through that. I'm just not going to go through it again. And that's the learning lesson there. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, but how does someone know their worth? Because I'm just acting out of ignorance. I'm not acting.
I think it's the learning lessons of the previous relationships, right? When you know your worth, you understand how you want to be treated. You understand when kind of the person you're looking for, how they can be in your life, how they conduct themselves. Because I've always said, a person not only needs to treat you well when they're in your space, they need to know how to conduct themselves when they're out of their space, because that affects you too. So knowing your worth is conducting yourself with discipline, conducting yourself to know how you want to be treated, and also conducting yourself in knowing that I know what I bring to the table. My partner needs to have these expectations, or at least come close to it, because no one comes 100% close to expectation. They need to bring this to the table, right? Like you said earlier, I know my worth. There comes a time when, if I want my wife to be at home with the children, right, with the kids, right, she has that option, right? There's an expectation of, right, the way she treats me is the same way I would want her to treat my kids, right? Being open, being vulnerable, communicate when we have issues. Those are things that I feel, and this is probably the advice I would give to somebody on starting over. Kind of look for the things that you need in your next relationship that you felt afraid to get in your last relationship because you weren't communicating, you weren't being vulnerable, you weren't trusting, you weren't able to really voice some of the concerns you had. So if that's kind of my advice I would give to somebody, it's like, really even write it down. If you feel like you're too afraid to kind of go through those triggers and traumas, write it down, right? And just keep telling yourself, praying about it, read about it, and really, when you define your purpose, this is what you need out of your next relationship. And I feel like that's why a lot of people have a problem with starting over, is because they're looking for the same things they've had for years. And it's just not that way anymore. You should evolve, you should grow up, you should mature. So yeah.
I think, the only thing I would really add to that is, I think not enough people in that process of starting over and everything like that, I think there are too many people who don't take the time they need to heal.
Correct. Yep.
Before they start the process of restarting, so to speak.
Yep. They're afraid. They're afraid to be by themselves. They're afraid to fail by themselves. They're afraid to. They feel like they're gonna miss out. Right. They feel like they're gonna miss out on that. That next relationship, and it's okay. It's okay to hear yourself, prepare yourself for the next person. That's a part of finding your purpose.
And a lot of people don't know what they want.
True.
A lot of people they just want a warm body to lay next to. Outside of that, they couldn't tell you.
And warm body to next to, and the character is trash. So we're gonna go into the wrap up here. That's basically where we give 3 to 5 minutes to our guests to give some gems. Let them know where they can find you and what you got going on. So, Mr. Shon Hyman, man, you've got the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this time, man. This was fun. The hour just went by so fast.
I know.
Yeah, we'll probably have to do this again because I'm like,
there needs to be like a part 2 or maybe even part 3 to this conversation.
For sure. Of course, you can find me at Scarrytoremarry.com. You can find me on all social media platforms, Scarrytoremarry. Just type it in, I'll pop up. I'm currently working on, I won't call it a card game. I would say it's more of like where you're asking questions. I have like a pre-engagement, like question course, a marriage course, engagement course, and even like a separation course. Like, where did I go wrong in this? Like, if we decide to divorce in this separation process, because I don't think we talk about that enough when you're going through a divorce, the separation. So that's going to be something I have in the works. That's coming soon. I also have on my website, I have some video courses, dating intentionally, 5 ways to know they are the one for you. And also how to get the intimacy back in your relationship. So I have some of that stuff available. I also have some of the merch on the website, Bravehearts. Those who subscribe to the website, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's my Bravehearts community over there. So that's everything we got going on, man.
Okay. Any gems you want to kind of give to the people, to the audience?
Yeah, man. I think it's just important to know what you want. And I think it's really important to have that clear vision on purpose, knowing what you were put on this earth to do. Because even in spite of relationships, I know a lot of times we don't like being alone. But who is to say that you won't find your spouse on your way to your purpose? So I think it's important that I think a lot of people even miss out because they don't know their purpose because they missing that path. Your spouse is in that path, but you're not even taking that path because you're too scared.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
So definitely, guys, love to hear your feedback on kind of the topics we spoke about today. Just the some questions on indicating potential success versus failure in relationships. Men or women that have the intuition that a man, your partner's gonna, propose to you, right? What are some of the conversations you guys need to be having? What are some of the questions you guys need to be asking? Right. Last week I said 6 questions you should be asking before you get engaged, before you marry someone. Very important questions. I'll make sure to kind of link that down there too. Also, if you're contemplating getting engaged, right? Men that are having trouble finding their identity, finding their purpose, is it okay to try to find yourself within a relationship pending marriage? Not being able to be yourself, ladies, definitely, comment, like, share, subscribe. And are you going through this right now in your relationship? Are you having trouble finding yourself, being yourself? Men, are you having trouble finding yourself, being yourself? You feel like you got to lead with finances. If this is an issue for you, definitely like, share, subscribe, comment. Let us know, if this is what you're going through. And final point here, as far as like, your fear of starting over. Is it the fear of wanting to start over because you're so used to what you've had in your previous relationships? So definitely subscribe to Scarrytoremarry.com with Mr. Shon Hyman. Definitely follow his Instagram page, man. He's got some great content on there. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the Let's Rock podcast on YouTube. Follow us on Let's Rock Podcast on Instagram. We're available on all streaming platforms right now. We just got on the iHeartRadio, which is great. Make sure you guys follow Jay at j.echo and also follow me at The Real Philosophical 23. You got any closing thoughts, Jay?
Just this was thank you, Sean, for coming and dropping some gems.
Yep.
I mean, it was a dope conversation.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do a part 2 to this because that is a good point. We need to kind of talk about the divorce rate and kind of divorce process and things like that. Especially from someone who's experienced it. Mr. Shon. Yeah. I think that's very important.
Got some things to think about on my own in terms of the relationship outline and everything like that. So
yeah. There's no thinking with me. I'm married. I've made my decision.
You can keep thinking, brother. Keep thinking.
I'm not thinking anymore. I'm good.
I'm not saying thinking about your partner. I'm just saying keep thinking.
I'm good. I'm in heaven. That's a joke for y'all out there. I know they're going to tell me in the comments, no perfect marriage. But, I've always said on the show, when you find the right partner, things are much easier. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're easier. So definitely like, share, subscribe to Scarrytoremarry's YouTube page, and definitely subscribe to the Let's Rock Podcast and Philosophical.
We're
out, y'all.
Take it easy.
Peace, y'all.